I think most of what I know, I heard from folks who grew up here, and it's their personal experience. So, one of the things, whenever you talk to people sometimes about what was it like during segregation here in Bristol, you hear it wasn't that bad. We didn't have any problems here. That was the
Hmm.
narrative that I knew. But then after talking to folks, it's maybe you didn't have the problems that you would have like in an Atlanta or a larger city, but segregation was alive and well
Hmm.
in Bristol. There was one story that just really broke my heart. And the person was telling me about his mother, that she had a position at one of the department stores downtown. And her job was to make sure that the window was dressed. So that, and apparently she was just very talented
Hmm.
at doing that. But she couldn't work during the daytime. She had to come when the store was closed in the evening and do the window dressing because they
Mm.
couldn't have someone that looked like her in the store doing that type work during the daytime.
Yeah.
So that wasn't, and then the person who told me the story, it just really broke his heart that his mother had to experience that. I think Bristol pretty much followed the pattern of other cities whenever it came to like urban renewal and the removal of, it was called blight. A lot of, Black communities were impacted by that. For example, Lee Street Baptist Church was located in the area that's called Black Bottom. So it was impacted by urban renewal. During that time frame, there was a lot of flooding with the Beaver Creek, so
Mm.
Lee Street was impacted by that. So then they were told that either you move and go somewhere else, or eventually the building's going to crumble. It was an opportunity for them to move to another location, build another facility, what they were told. And this is pretty common whenever you look at urban renewal and you hear the stories that
Mm.
people were told about the property. It's a flood zone or there's something wrong with the
Mm.
property. So I think people were given information that
Hmm.
would make them feel like we need to get out of here as quick as we can.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then, so it's interesting because a lady that I just did an oral story for her last year, and then we asked her the question about, because she was a member of Lee Street, asked her
Mm-hmm.
about Lee Street and the reason why Lee Street moved to its new location on Mary Street. And her response was they wanted the property. Within Black Bottom, around 1896, there were probably 11 businesses that were there, and we pulled that information from the city directory. And
Mm.
then by the time you get to the late 1930s, 1940s, it's close to 30
So these are black-owned businesses.
Black owned businesses.
What were the 11? Do you remember?
I have that list
Uh-huh.
because I went back and looked at the city directories, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that there was like the grocery store, barber shops were everywhere, beauty shops, a lodge. Later on, there was a cab company, Carter Cab Company. So there are two markers that are across the street from the courthouse there in Cumberland Park.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a part of that project and co-led the project. I partnered with the Bristol Historical Association. So we have two markers. One is for Charles Spurgeon Johnson. The other one is for Lee Street. So the Charles Spurgeon Johnson marker, Charles Spurgeon Johnson had an amazing career, made an amazing contribution, not just the fact that he was born in Bristol, but the man was the first African American president of Fisk University in Nashville. He was a noted sociologist, had written several books. He was a part of the Harlem Renaissance, but he was born on Moore Street
Hmm.
in Bristol, Virginia. And then his father, Reverend Charles Henry
Hmm.
Johnson, was the pastor of Lee Street Baptist Church. What's interesting with Charles Spurgeon Johnson, his grandson is Jay Johnson, who was the director of the Department of Homeland Security under President Obama. So here you have Charles Spurgeon Johnson, first African American president of Fisk University. So then I've learned that there are two other historically Black college university presidents that were born here in Bristol. So
Oh.
there was another one, Mr. Law. He was president of a college in Virginia University in Petersburg. And then on the Tennessee side, you have Dr. Vivian Henderson, and he was president of Clark College in Atlanta. The goal is that there will be an archive, that there will be documented history about the African American community in Bristol going forward. And the goal is that future generations will know that Black folks made a contribution in Bristol. So it's really just the awareness and the fact that there is something that tells our story and the contribution that we've made. I have a bigger vision. I'd love to have a place where people can come and they can engage with the history, where researchers can come. If you're researching a family member, maybe you can go to the archives and pull some information. What are some of the topics that are important to the community? Bringing in people to share those things. Currently, at the Bristol, Virginia School Board, they have a closet with just different memorabilia and artifacts from the Douglas School. All that stuff is in a closet. There's no place where that can be showcased and people can talk about those items. So the goal is to have a place where you can engage and build community around that.
Find a way.